cape.
Welcome, Wargamers. This is Doug with 2+ Stuff, back with another While You're Reforging, my podcast equivalent because I can't actually do a podcast reliably. So, what I'm going to be doing tonight, I kind of worked on a little order I want the show to go in. So we're going to start off with some hobby progress and games played, move into some Q&A, because some of y'all did send me questions, which is awesome, and we'll get to that in a little bit. And then, of course, my three main topics and just kind of chatting. So if you're watching this, the intent is that you're watching this hanging out with me while you paint, just to have some discussion and some dialogue, and I hope that you join me painting. So let's go ahead and dig in with hobby progress. It's probably the best place to start just because I'm already kind of doing stuff. When I left last time, I was working on a pack of Chaos Knights, and I was able to get them built. Realized pretty quickly I don't actually have bases for them. I thought I did, but all I have is the squares, so I'm kind of putting them on hold until my bases come in the mail. So I thought I'd move to my Marauders. If you remember, I rolled for Path to Glory and I got a Chaos Lord on a Manticore as my leader. And then 20 Marauders and 5 Knights. So these ones actually came pre-painted. Let me pull the camera up here so I can see. Might be easy here. There you go. So yeah, they're not the best. He did kind of the base on the skin. Everything else has kind of a brown base coat, which is nice because then I can just kind of go over that and just be careful of the skin. And I actually decided to go with the Shattered Dominion bases, which you can see right there. There you go. It looks nice. I'm painting these to match my gaming mat that I have. If you want to support the channel, go down to the show notes and there's a link to the 2+ Stuff store. It's a 6x4 gaming mat set in the Realm of Death with these kind of cool blue ethereal energies kind of coming through the ground, so this actually matches it. And if you're interested, I can give you a link to how to paint to match this. It's really, really easy. But yeah, so that's what I'll be doing. I opted for these because I wanted something I could just go buy really easily. And my gaming group, they use the death mat quite a bit, so I think it makes sense. I'll just go for it. It's not a huge expense, relative speaking, to the kind of models I'm going to have, so it's whatever. So today, while I'm doing the video, I'm going to be putting these guys, first of all, on the bases, and then going back and touching them up and things like that. So let's see here. Oh, yeah, as far as other things, I want to show off this. I'm halfway through building my Lord on the Manticore. You see if I can get him here. So I took the giant skull from the skull box and kind of lopped off huge chunks of the Manticore head. So I'm going to put that there. And then I'm going to go through with some green stuff. I haven't quite done it yet. And edge up. You see where the skull meets the scalp of the thing? Of the Manticore? It just needs some gap filling to kind of like smooth the transition. One of the horses for the Chaos Knights kit has like it's a very ornate one, has like a skull riding on top of it. And that's kind of my inspiration here, but I like him. I think he looks super beastie. I didn't do much else in terms of conversion than that. I thought about doing some stuff, but I actually like this kit the way he is. And my general policy on conversions is that I build at least one the way it was designed because I enjoy that. I like their vision of things. And then if I buy multiples, I convert them so that I have a diverse looking force. So he'll stick with that one for right now. And I finished up my Stormcast Eternals for Shadespire, which some people like, so I'll share him here. Let me see if I can get the camera to focus in on him. There he is. So as you can see, I cut out the helmet in his arm, put a skeleton warrior guy's head there. What else? Put the bird on top. Man, this is just not want to cooperate with me. It's a new camera. We'll get to that in a little bit here when I do some announcements. I'm just kind of getting used to where it focuses and things like that. But yeah, and so I went around and put some texture on the back here for fur along his cape. And the other ones I didn't do as much. I gave her one of the flails from, oh, what is it? I think it's the Devoted of SIgmar kit. I think so, and gave her one of the skeleton shields with some rust effects on there. And I did almost nothing to change Big Boy here with the hammer because I like him. Gave them all Stormcast Eternal, not Stormcast, Space Marine shoulder pads. And some people were kind of like, why would you do that? Kind of getting miffed about it. I don't know why. They don't like when those two universes cross, I guess. For some reason, I think that just kind of gives, particularly him, a very slimmer profile, and I like it. So, I don't know. If you have thoughts about it, leave the comments down below. I read everything. Let me put these guys off to the side here. Okay. So that is it for my hobby progress. Didn't have a whole lot to show for. If you're been subscribed to the channel, I was doing Nurgle Week. 5 videos in a week is a monumental amount of work for me. Just every evening I was here at my computer working on stuff. So if you enjoyed it, I'm really glad that you did. Please let me know that, because YouTube's terrible at like feedback in certain things. So if you enjoyed it, I really appreciate knowing about it. I can't promise that I'll do like, you know, forces any given week in the future. Got my glue here. But, you know, it's good to know. I did also pick up the Disciples of Tzeentch book here for myself to start using with all my Slaves to Darkness. So I could do a Tzeentch week, but that's only if people like it. So, you know, feedback is always helpful. I'm going to start gluing these guys on their bases here. Let's pull up my little itinerary to talk about. Okay, games played. I have not played anything, really. Let's see. It was just a busy week with all the Nurgle videos. And then my normal gaming group, awesome guys who were always up for a game, they were busy because they were going to a tournament. We don't have a lot of tournaments out here in the Seattle area. So they were going to one on one of the islands nearby. And I just couldn't make it, so I didn't want to practice with them, because typically our group focuses on kind of fun narrative lists. But for that particular event, they wanted to bring some teeth. And so, yeah, people kind of lose me. I don't know if I come across this way on the channel, but I'm not into the hardcore stuff. I'm not into the competitive scene. Not because I think it's dumb. I mean, if that's how you find enjoyment in the hobby, you should absolutely do it. It's more just I struggle to kind of grasp the elements of list building. If I read a book and I see how forces are set up and stuff like that, I'm very good at recreating those things in the kind of the feel of an army. But, you know, people, they just have this mind for like how synergies work and model placement and knowing what their opponents is going to do and stuff like that. So it's just beyond me. And so that's kind of where they lose me. Yeah, so I mean, but it was good. It was good for them to go. I think 3 of my gaming group went. One of them won. Jack, who I've talked about before, who's an awesome guy, took the win with a super shooty Stormcast Eternalist. And I'll tell you a little anecdote about Jack here in a little bit, just to make him embarrassed. And another player was Seraphon, and the third was Mark, who brought Sylvaneth. I think that was what he brought. Yeah, they all had very mixed reactions to what was going on. It's a meta that I know no one from my group has really gone and interacted with. So, you know, kind of mixed reactions there. But it was good. They all said they had fun. Glad they went with friends rather than just going on their own to play in a tournament. Anyway, I'm getting off track, but that's why I didn't play very many games, is because my gaming group was out beating face. Let's see. I do have a game scheduled for this Thursday, which should be exciting. Also on Wednesday, I'm tentatively scheduled to go with Vince Petrella on Warhammer Weekly. So that's exciting. Look out for that. Let's see here. I'm just kind of horsing around with my settings here. Okay, so moving on to games played. We're going to hop into some Q&A because you guys are awesome and left me some questions last week when I asked. So let's see. Now, I'm going to try and pronounce everyone's name. Be gentle, because I'm terrible at this. I believe it's Thij Zonevald. What do you think about Death Army, Death Rattle, Death Lords, and a bit of... Okay, so what do I think about Death Rattle, Death Lords, and Nighthaunt as one army? Okay, I'm kind of crystallizing that here. I think right now, at this exact moment, playing Grand Alliance Death, where you just kind of take the best of all those things is the absolute best way to play. Death in particular. When the new battle tome for Nagash comes out, we're not quite sure how that's going to work. If you actually go to the Grand Alliance Death, the big book with all the War Scrolls that came out when all the forces got their own, it's interesting because if you look at the Mortarchs, Neferata, Manfred, Archon, it actually has in their little, like, not quite fluff, but not quite rules blurb about them, that they each have preferred forces. And so I do think when we see that book, we're going to start seeing, like, maybe it's like Nagash. Sorry, not Nagash. Let's say, for example, Archon. Let's pick on one guy. Archon might have his kind of formations that benefit Death Rattle, for instance, right? Something like that, where you can still, sure, you can probably still take Nighthaunt with him, but you're probably not going to get the most miles for your buck doing so. I think something like that would likely happen. It's interesting because the way that the leaks that we've gotten for the Nagash book are so wild in the sense that it seems to be just a recreation of the Grand Alliance Death battle tome. The Grand Alliance Death book that we got, but more structured in ways to put all those various minor factions together, which I'm excited about. I think it's very different. We know that Flesh Eater Courts probably aren't going to be in there, and that's okay. I'm hoping that they do something like Clan Pestilence is to the Maggotkin book, where it's like Super gets a big buff from that book's release, even though it's not really mentioned in it. You know what I mean? Like kind of a passive upgrade. I'm really hoping that's the case, because I'd love to see Flesh Eater Courts on the table more, and frankly, I'd love to play them. If I'm going to play a Death Army, that's probably the one. I like the theme of madness and things like that. So anyway, as far as what do I think they are now, right now I think it's the best way to go is taking the best from all of those Thieves. So that is definitely the way to go. As far as Death Lords, I love Neferata. She's one of my favorites. Death Rattle. There's some good things in Death Rattle. Honestly, it's hard to go wrong with 40 Skeleton Warriors and Spears. Like, it's really... I can't do it. I can't handle that. There are things you see online where people are like, oh, that army's garbage, and yet I have no answer for them, and that's one of them. 40 Skeleton Warriors. Holy hell, it's a lot to chew through, and I just love it. I love seeing it across the table, like, in a non-competitive sense. Because, one, it's kind of like Imperial Guard is for 40k right now, where, like, super powerful, can sweep the floor with people, while still being incredibly thematic. And I was like, how do you argue with that? Like, there's no... They're not doing anything wrong. It's just a good army. Let's see here. Ryan Hurst. What is your opinion of the Maggotkin book? That's actually one of our topics for discussion, so I'll answer that one a little bit later. Oscar Isiderson. Why is the channel called 2+ Tough? Fair enough. I'm going to let you in on a secret. I am not a very deep man. I am not horribly creative. What I wanted to do in match play, obviously, ones always fail. So the best thing you could ever be is a 2-up, and I don't know. Tough just sounded cool. I don't really have anything else. I don't have any mystical knowledge for it. It kind of rolled off my tongue when I was kind of going through a list of names. I didn't want to do 2-up save or anything like that. Yeah, that, and we were trying to, initially when we launched the channel, I'll be honest, we initially wanted to do gaming mats, like, specifically. Now, obviously, I'm selling some. This is our last order, where we're going to do. So if you'd like one, go ahead and grab one. So there's kind of a running theme of, like, the toughest mats in the market. These are comparable to the more expensive, like, the mega fat mats, I think they're called, from Frontline Gaming, where they're, like, double thickness. It is much thicker than your standard gaming mat. And so that was kind of our tagline. We wanted to focus on the durability of this thing, that you can take it at home, in a workshop, and a game store, roll it up, and just never have to worry about it. So that's kind of the origins of that, of toughness, and then 2-up being the best that you can get in a competitive environment. So that kind of amalgamation is how it worked out. Adam Fear, or Fire. So if you had to follow a Chaos God, which one would it be and why? That's really hard. Very topical while I assemble my Slaves to Darkness Marauders here. If I had to follow... I'm going to think about them here. Khorne. I don't want to do Khorne because Khorne is like pass-fail, right? You're either killing people or you're getting killed, and that... It's a lot of pressure, you know? It's like... I don't know. I don't know. That's just too much. I ever think about like Skull Reapers, like their lore in particular, where it's like they have to kill 8 worthy people a day or something like that, or they die. I don't know, something crazy like that. So I don't think Khorne. Also, I'm not an aggressive person per se. I say per se. I'm not aggressive at all. Let's see here, and then Slaanesh. No. Not until they rewrite Slaanesh to make it more about arrogance than drugs and sex and rock and roll. That doesn't really appeal to me. Probably Nurgle or Tzeentch. I'd probably say Nurgle. Probably Nurgle. And the reason is because fear of mortality is a very real and tangible thing that we can all relate to. And he keeps you from that. Also, he's one of the more jolly, mirthful of the Chaos Gods. So I like that. I like when people in the books talk about Nurgle's favor. It's a very tangible, positive, in their view thing. So probably, yeah, I'm gonna firm answer you on Nurgle. Ben Howard. Hey, I'm working on an Ironjaw's army, thinking of starting a second army. I'm leaning towards Death, Soulblight. I don't want to spend 170 Australian, I assume that is, dollars for Blood Knights. I'm thinking of using Dragon Princes. Can you recommend any heads to use? Heads. If you do Dragon Knights... Let's see. So in Nagash Undying King, there's a few Blood Knights who are female, who follow Neferata, exclusively female. And they are all helmetless. So if you're going to go something like that, I would say look at the Witches kit from Dark Eldar and 40k. There's some really awesome female heads in there that I think would fit really, really well. You can file down the ears a little bit. They're kind of pointy ears, but then again, so would vampires, I suppose, in some mythos. So that's what my suggestion is. And if you buy the Witches kit, there are male and female heads in there, so that'd be perfect. They're also meant to be painted kind of gaunt and thin, so that might work for it as well. If you want a helmeted head... I mean, if you can find old Bretonnian ones, those were legit. I don't know. Let me think about that one. Helmets for Blood Knights. I don't know. I would lean towards unhelmeted and probably go with Witches personally. Okay, next question. Felipe Coriel. Since you used to play Greenskins, which I said in the last video, what do you think of an army made of an Orc war boss on a Wyvern, a lot of Moon Clan Grots with spears and bows, and some Grots heroes and shamans and cavalry in the form of Wolf Riders, Boar Boys, and Chariots? Yeah, I mean, that's just a Orc and Goblin army from back in the day. And as far as how it plays, like I said earlier, I'm not a list guy. I'm trying to think. I think the biggest thing would be maybe just kind of keeping them near their synergy keywords. So I would probably throw all the Grots up forward in the first wave to kind of absorb the blow. That's all they're there for, is to be bodies. And then following them up with... What'd you have from Orcs? You had Boar Boys and Chariots. Yeah, oh, actually what you could do, now I'm looking at your stuff, because all the Orcs that you listed here are faster. They're on Boars, Chariots, and the Wyvern. Have your main force be the Grots going up the center and kind of holding objectives and that with bodies. And then almost putting your Orc stuff off to the side to come in and engage the enemy really, really early on. So, I'm trying to think of, what's that name of that term where you, like... what's it called? I used to know this when I played Warhammer Fantasy Battles. You intercept one side really, really quickly, so then your opponent's army has to kind of pivot and turn, and so you kind of put you in a good advantage here. So yeah, there's that. I think it's, sorry to answer your question, I think it's a great idea for an army. I think Grots are in a really good place. I'm hoping this year they get a Battle Tome. The new Shaman that's coming out for them gives me hope. That's kind of like the Flesh Eater Corps. That's an army that I would love to play. Okay, Drink down. Let's see here. Adrian Trevor. If you are a Tzeentch Allegiance, your sorcerer will also get a spell lore from Lore of Fate in the Tzeentch book. Okay, it's not a question. Alright, yeah, it is true. Oh, you know what? I think it was in response to when I was talking about building the Slaves to Darkness and I was talking about picking allegiance. Yes, you are absolutely right. Also, check out the Ever-Chosen Battalion Fate-Sworn Warband, which makes all your Slaves to Darkness units a lot better. It gives you access to mortal Tzeentch units for support. You mean like, oh yeah, I guess all the Tzeentch stuff that's actually in the book that's mortal would be Tzeentch Mortal too, wouldn't it? Undying King actually came out in 2016. It was a digital release that came out at Christmas. I agree, the book is awesome. Yes, so when I just released my review of that book today, and I did give you credit that you pointed that out to me. I think, I may have said it in the review, I think what happened was every once in a while they'll re-advertise a book that they've released before. They do it a lot, at least on my Facebook feed. Particularly the Fire Slayer stuff. I don't know, there's a bunch of short stories with Fire Slayers, and I just keep seeing those books. But I think what it was is because the Malign Portents stuff is coming out, I think they re-advertised it. So I got it as soon as I saw it, not knowing that it came out a while ago. So yes, you're correct. As for the Fate-Sworn Warband, this week someone else pointed that out to me. And I have been just devouring the rules on those things. I really like that one, and I like the Nurgle one. Partially because the Nurgle one gives you access to Maggotkin rules as well, and those are pretty legit. So, you know, as far as which way to go, I'm locked in for Tzeentch for the Path to Glory stuff that I'm building right now. Totally, utterly not going to complain about that. My good buddy Mark, who is a Maggotkin dude, is taking over the Nurgle stuff, and I want him to. As far as in the future, I don't know. I really got hung up because I misunderstood the battalion at first. I thought you had to have units the size of the god's number. So like Tzeentch would be 9, Nurgle would be 7, whatever his number is. But it's not that way. It is actually if the unit is in multiples of that number. So could be 18 for Tzeentch, which means a lot when you have little tiny dudes like this. You can just really pump up units and get whatever their bonuses are taken to the extreme. Very cool. So I'm definitely building towards the Tzeentch one right now. The Fate-Sworn Warband that you suggested, absolutely. That is really, really good stuff. If you're not familiar with it, you take 1 Mortal Tzeentch hero and 9 Mortal Tzeentch units. Now that sounds like a lot. It's actually not that bad because of how many things count as a Mortal Tzeentch unit. So for example, like 10 of these guys is 60 points if you just want to like fill out that last spot. But generally speaking, you're going to include things like the War Shrine counts and stuff like that. So I mean, there are a ton of options support and attack wise to fill out those numbers. Man, this guy just doesn't want to stay on. Okay, let him stay like that for a second. So yes, great ideas all around. Next question, Alex Chavira. I started getting into Warhammer right before the switch to AOS and really liked the Wood Elves, so I got some units of them. But then in AOS, they kind of got ignored until the 2017 General's Handbook. True. Do you think GW will do more with them or not? I certainly hope so. I'm really hoping the day of GW pruning armies and model lines is over, meaning that the things that we have now seem very set in stone. Do I think that they're going to come out this year? Probably not. I think that they have different views of what's going to happen during Malign Portents and over the next year. What I'd really like to see, and this to be honest with you, I think the company is pivoting, right? The way that they do things. Age of Sigmar came out and like all of our armies were shattered to 1,000 pieces. But have you noticed the last few battle tomes either introduce a new army or combine various of those micro factions to give them an allegiance? So for example, I mean, Maggotkin, it's Rotbringers, Demons of Nurgle, Slaves to Darkness that offers rules for, and Clan Pestilence. Okay, that's a lot of things that are covered by one book. Even if it doesn't have rules for every single one of them by name, right? There's no Plague Monk formations in there. They did the same thing for Khorne, for Tzeentch, the Stormcast Eternal one. Yeah, it's all Stormcast Eternal, but did you notice they put one book out, and then they had the Extremist Chamber, and then they had something else for a while, and they just summed them all up together. So, point being, I think that the company has pivoted from a billion sub-factions, and they're realizing, okay, that's not the kind of way to drive sales and models. Let's lump them back together again. So my point in all that dialogue saying, maybe this year there are some rumors of elves coming out. I would love it if they somehow lumped all of the elves together and included Wanderers, which are the new Wood Elves. So I am absolutely in your boat. I think the company is pivoting to do things like that. I think it's definitely a possibility. Whether it's going to happen, can't say. But yes, I agree with you. I certainly hope so. I love those books that have, I mean, like the Maggotkin one and really all the Chaos ones lately, where they do more than the cover of the book suggests by helping out armies that are kind of on the peripheral, like Plague Monks, like Slaves to Darkness, those kinds of things. Ollie Kellaway. I'd love to see Path of Glory updates. I love watching people build their armies and try to see the reasons they've added certain units. Yeah, totally. This is probably going to be the majority of my While You're Reforging content for the, I don't know, not the foreseeable future, but for a while. The group kind of took a week off from building their Path of Glory forces with the tournament that I was talking about. So, but we'll get back to it. Yeah, I mean, I didn't stop. I want to do a lot of conversions and painting. This lot, I think I mentioned last time, I got from a guy's garage, so it needs a lot of work. People kind of broke apart. I need to order some bits and stuff like that, so yeah. Point is, Path of Glory updates, yes, they are a thing. And the last question, Eric Mumper. This guy just doesn't want to stay on. Need to get some accelerant. We'll hit it one more time. Here we go. Okay, sorry. Eric Mumper. You should try pine bark nuggets for your bases. It's super cheap and relatively easy to make good, to make it look good. There are Lord's tutorials on using them. Yes, I consider that. I got your comment pretty early on, and well, I did look into it, and it is cool. And I do want to do that for, I think, maybe the Lord on a Manticore here. The thing is, for the base little guys, I just like the Shattered Dominion bases, and they're just so easy to buy a pack of. They're all ready to go. You just paint them up real quick. I think doing 20 of these in one big batch took me like 20 minutes or something like that. I don't even use an airbrush. Just based them black, went over it with gray, filled in with the blue, and then some gold, and then a wash, and that was it. So, but I thank you for your comment, and I'm definitely going to check those out for the bigger guy here, because they don't make a base the size of the Chaos Lord and Manticore. So, okay, so that is all of my questions here. What I'm going to do is leave a link down below, and if you want to ask a question, YouTube is not great for filtering comments and things like that, like per video. So I have a link to a survey down below. If you'd like to leave a question, click that link. It doesn't require anything. It just asks you if you want to use your name. You can always put no, and then you can write your question out, and I'll read it here on the air. Okay. That just kind of helps keep me organized a little bit. But you guys were great about asking questions. So let's see. Q&A is done. Main topic number 1. I want to cover these Malign Portents stories. Let me pull up my little notes here that I kept for myself, because I keep notes on everything. So there's lots of videos out there covering these little mini stories that we're getting from GW. If you haven't seen them, if you go over to the Malign Portents website, which I think is just malignportents.com, it's nothing complicated. They have a series of small stories they're releasing over time, kind of like piecemeal. And they each have a very different tone. They're all revealing very different information to us. I don't remember them in order, but there are a few that stand out as incredibly interesting. So here's the thing. For the longest time, the entire Realmgate War series, the campaign that opened the entire game up, SIgmar was always the good guy, and not that kind of, we perceive him to be the good guy because he's on our side, but like he's just kind of perfect in every way. And I think that's kind of boring from a narrative perspective. He's too good, right? And what we've seen in these stories is a shift, like a huge, I use my word pivot, I use that word a lot, pivot of narration, where we have this story where the Stormcast Eternal busts into someone's house and kills him. Why? Well, because Nurgle's plague has come to this town and sort of infected everyone, and so rather than healing and medicinal, aims and goals, they just wipe everything out and purge the entire area, which does not make Stormcast look good at all, and they shouldn't be. They should be horrific demigods that we can't relate to on some level. So I appreciated that story a lot. I believe it was correct me if I'm wrong, leave in the comments, I think it was a Knights Excelsior, the white armored ones. Yeah. I think it's that one. Anyway, so we have this story of the Stormcast not looking good. And then this story came out where it's a town that's being overrun kind of with Nurgle's plague. And there's a woman there who I'm pretty sure is a vampire, can't confirm, but is able to heal Nurgle's rot with kind of an amethyst magic, which is pretty crazy. But anyway, the most important part of that story is that someone says, "Oh, thanks SIgmar that you came," or they gave some praise to SIgmar that this woman saved him or her. And this lady with the power says, like, don't thank SIgmar. He has nothing to do here. You need to thank Nagash. And so you have this pivot where not only does Nagash look like a loving god to these particular people, which is easy. You can write that off and say, oh, okay, from their demented perspective, he's the good guy. But then you also have the story that the Stormcasts are literally the bad guy. Like, they're just bad. They are harming people in a very tangible way for the sake of purging things. And so my point being that the story is pivoted to where I think that we're going to see a lot more interesting narratives where nobody is too good and nobody is too bad. There's just shades of gray all around. I needed SIgmar to be more bad, and I really appreciate that they're doing that, at least. Because here's the thing, like, they kind of alluded to the fact that not everyone likes SIgmar, right? They kind of, in some stories, they're like, oh, he just locked himself away. But there was never really any consequences for that. It was just like, I kind of think he's a tool, but now he's back, and he's helping me. So awesome, he's cool again. So, you know what I mean? Like, and that never sat well with me, because if a god abandons his people in their time of need, there should be ramifications with that. And I feel like they weren't written in before, but now we're writing in. What are the actual consequences of chaos being in the realms? We have to purge them. Which, if you remember when I did my video on Alariel, if you haven't, you should go check it out. I talked about this idea that Alariel does something very unique, which is she doesn't just kill chaos warriors, whatever, but she purges it. She heals things. Because fundamentally, that's what the realms actually need. They actually need healing, and you know what I mean? Like, chaos, you can't just kill the Chaos Lord in the area and say, oh, they're all gone. It's like, no. Like, it's an infection, and you have to heal and remove the infected material. And so I think that creates really awesome stories for good guys to seem bad legitimately, and bad guys to not seem so unrelatable, right? So I think we got some cool things coming along the way here. Let's see here. The next one I have is Slaanesh. So, something I can't really do a video on it, like a lore video per se, because I don't have a whole lot of information. But if you've been following and you are at all a fan of the Chaos Gods, Slaanesh has obviously been missing. There are some interesting stories and kind of conversations to be had about Slaanesh, but this isn't going to be like a lore thing, because like I said, we don't really have any information. We know that he devoured so many souls after the end times that he became kind of gluttonous, and it seems like the elves were able to take him away and lock him up somewhere at an unknown location. Someone asked, how do you lock up a god? And it's interesting to note that in Age of Sigmar, the gods have a duality. There is a everywhere aspect to them, that they just exist in all realms, all places. But they also do have a physical being. And so there's various books that mention this. Nagash Undying King is a great one. I think it's not Hammerhall. There's one of the audiobooks where Sigmar and Alariel are having a conversation while in kind of their ethereal forms. They're kind of projecting everywhere. To everyone else, it just sounds like wind and thunder, but they're actually having a dialogue with one another on like kind of the heavenly god realm type thing. So my point being that it is possible to capture and bind up a god. In fact, that's the entire point of Nagash Undying King, is that people are coming to destroy his physical form, even though his kind of, we'll say, astral form is kind of everywhere, alive and interacting with people. He does still have a body. So that's how that happens. As far as bringing him back, or him, shim, her, whatever, into the lore, the reason I think he's been sitting on the sidelines for so long, because I don't know what they want to do with him. By this I mean, I think the company has changed course to being more inclusive to people of all ages and genders, and I think that in their minds required a rewriting of some things, and I don't blame them. And what I mean is not... Here's the thing. What am I trying to say? If you read Fulgrim, which is a Warhammer Horus Heresy book, you get the best sense of Slaanesh I've ever gotten from any book. By that I mean, it's not just about sex and drugs, but about being the best, and this like infectious desire to be the best at everything took them to dark places. And that's relatable, right? I don't want to join a weird sex cult that eats people, you know? But, I mean, I could see someone I know and love and care about going down a dark road because they want to be number one at blank, you know, fill it in. And so that is really great. And so in that book with those, that set of Space Marines, it took them into the realm of drugs because they were trying to modify things to be the best. And it took them into some weird places, but it wasn't about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Whereas I think a lot of the fan base has made it that way. Now, in fairness, a lot of the older books and a lot of the older lore really supported that. It was the 80s. They put a M for mature or whatever like that content sticker on the box. So I don't blame anyone, but I think that the company needs to change direction to better not only market Slaanesh, but also bridge, I think, this gap that's missing where, you know, I think that desire for more in the sense of being the best, showing everyone that kind of arrogance, I think that is a common enough force in the universe to represent a chaos god. I think that they just want to break away from that image of sexuality attached to it, which I don't, like I said, I don't blame them. A lot of folks are going to be disappointed because they have weird fetishes that they build models and things like that, and that's, you know, cool for you. But not, I think, when it comes to mainstream publications and sales of miniatures, especially when the company has taken so many lengths to include younger and younger people, like the Battle for Vedros set or something like that, where you can get little kids involved. What I would love is that this year, I would love it if this year Slaanesh was rewritten to be that kind of driving force towards perfection and speed, which is something that the other gods can't really do. I don't know when that'll happen, but I think it'd be really cool. Let's see here. Anyway, point is, I want Slaanesh to come back, but I want Slaanesh to come back in a written way that is both interesting and fills... It has to be filling a void in the Chaos Gods that is there right now, and I think that there's a void to be filled, meaning that this idea of speed and grace and perfection and I don't know, just discipline in that sense, I think nothing else really captures that. And then also, it needs to be able to work for them from a marketing perspective, and I think maybe that's what they were waiting for. Maybe letting some of the older folks who are more closely attached to those kind of the old view of Slaanesh about sexuality, things like that, letting them kind of like, you know, go off to the sideline and then reintroducing a whole new world of gamers to this new and improved, or not improved, but rewritten, redesigned type of Slaanesh. So let's see here. And my last topic, which was actually one of the questions, is my thoughts on Maggotkin. So, I bought Maggotkin on the app as soon as it was available, and did not regret it whatsoever. If you haven't checked it out, I did a 5-part video thing about Maggotkin. It was just going over some lore and where to begin. My thoughts on where to begin the army are obviously in that video. But my thoughts on the army as a whole is that this is the single best army book they've released ever. I mean it. And there's a few reasons why I say that. One, it has all of the command abilities and spell ores and all that kind of stuff. Already sets it ahead of so many battle tomes who came out before Sylvaneth and just didn't have those things. I know the General's Handbook added them back again, but it's not the same. In addition to that, I think this book does more for more factions than any other battle tome. By that I mean, you have stuff for, obviously, like I listed off before, Demons of Nurgle, the whatever the Blight Kings are, the Rotbringers, I'm sorry, and then Slave to Darkness, Clan Pestilence. Like, those are 4 factions, and they just do so much. And I think part of it is because the rules that you get, the allegiance abilities, are almost entirely detached from whatever you take. It doesn't matter what you take. You'll always be able to summon demons in with their contagion points. You'll always be able to do mortal wounds, or place a piece of terrain to block someone's charge path, or, you know what I mean, just do really cool things. And so, man, just an awesome book. Like, and I think that's what I wanted to see. I love any way to bring demons onto the table that's not just summoning. Like, I love the blood points for Khorne, even though it doesn't go off very often. Tzeentch is just normal summoning all around. But yeah, no, I thought it was an absolute home run. I forgot to mention in my Getting Started in Age of Sigmar video that all battle tomes come with a what do you call a scenario. So I think those ones in there are pretty darn good. They're not balanced, but they're fun. I played one of them. What else stands out about that book? Yeah, I mean, just the inclusiveness of so many models. There's a channel, and I don't have the name, I'll put it in the show notes down below, where he just started reviewing the book, and he kind of did the math on it. It's like, okay, well, if you just use the Maggotkin book, here are the number of war scrolls. But if you go to Slaves to Darkness and take Nurgle, has the same keyword synergies, but now you have, I think he said there's like 72 options in war scrolls. Like, like, there's so many things going on. And then all that retaining your mortal Nurgle rules. And then if you go even bigger and go just to Nurgle, you have the demons and you have the plague monks and all that kind of stuff like that. It's just insane how many things. It rewards you for being able to be dynamic and open up your tactical toolbox. However, if you're new and you don't know where to start, the battle tomes in there are freaking awesome. Like, I can't talk about them enough. Where if you, I'm trying to think here, I believe, I could probably verify this, I don't want to look at my phone right now. If you buy 2 Start Collecting Nurgle Demon boxes, you should be able to build a Taliban of Nurgle, which is a formation that is super baller. It wouldn't be the best use of that, but the fact of the matter is that they've paved the roads that new people can be like, where do I start? See a formation that has these things, here's a starter box, uses every single thing there. Okay, cool, go. Like, that's amazing. Yeah, so and that's the thing, like, other Start Collecting boxes in relation to their books, they do a good job, but I don't think as good. Like, I don't think For example, I guess Khorne is probably the best relation because there is a Bloodbound box as well as a Demon box. And Slave to Darkness still works for them. But I feel like the Khorne one, it didn't take off for me personally as far as like pointing people in that direction. Just because I wasn't crazy about the Bloodbound box itself. It's just it's a great set of models to get people trying new things. I did a review on it and I still stand by it. It's a good box. But as far as like from that starting point going to further in the army, nothing I've seen is as clear, effective, and solid as the Taliban is to the Demons of Nurgle box. Everything else is like, okay, well I can build, you know, if I just buy this more unit, I can have this formation and I'll have these extra cavalry riders or whatever. Like, there's always something that you don't quite use. But this one's just like, no, use literally everything, and then you just keep on expanding and just make it a better Taliban. So that was a win for me in terms of onboarding new people. Absolutely. What else? I would love it if whenever... One thing I wish they had done, I should say this. I wish they had put the Nurgle Mortal Warband that we were talking about earlier. I think it's the Plague Touched Warband. I wish that was in this book, and I wish that the Fate Sworn Warband was in the Tzeentch one. Kind of nudging people towards different options. I know that it was in the Everchosen book, but who has the Everchosen book? Like, just kind of feel about it. It was good for that one Archaon lore video that I did, and other than that, I'm just like, cool. That's about it. Archaon's a baller. Varangard are just, they're so expensive. Can't fathom doing it. Yeah, but anyway, I'm off topic. Maggotkin of Nurgle. Slam dunk. Absolutely. I think it was the best battle tome. Obviously, we haven't gotten one in 7 months, with Kharadron Overlords being the last one, I believe. So a part of it's just, I'm just happy to see anything. But in terms of the number of armies that are affected, the ability to take a new player and get them in, not just in, but effectively in, with army building, with the battalion, things like that. I don't know. I think it has a lot to offer in general. One thing I do point out, and this is actually not a criticism, but something that I point out with the Fyreslayers book too. There is a disproportionate number of named characters. There's like 12 or something. It's ridiculous. And the reason is, I'm not a big fan of named characters. If I do take a named character, I want to have a thematic force that would follow them. Like, if I take Archaon, I want Slaves to Darkness or some manner of demonic force that represents all the different Chaos Gods, because he's the unifier of them all. Or, you know, if I take Gutrot's Boom, I want big, hardy Nurgle Blight Kings, because that's what he has in the stories. They're all Blight Kings. So, stuff like that. So that's something to keep an eye out on. Just if you're like me in that sense, you're gonna not struggle, but I wish on some of these model kits that they have, especially the multi-kit ones, that they would have cut out some characters, like the Magath Riders kit. I just did a lower video on all 3 of those. I wish there was one that was just like generic, like Chaos Blight King on a Magath or something like that. Like, that would have been cool. Could have made my own. I don't think everything has to be named. Okay. So yeah, so Maggotkin, like I said, slam dunk. Trying to think of anything negative about it. It's super nasty. Like, if you get the Feculent Narmaws, really, that's, if you learn to place things well and you become really good at that, you're gonna rock your opponents hard. I think that's gonna be the next battle tome where we have to, like, you know, warn your opponent, ask them if you want to play a hardcore game or a soft, you know, like a softer kind of game just for funsies. Just because, man, I watched a game which should be coming out online here pretty soon as a battle report, not on my channel, but on a friend's, where it was Maggotkin of Nurgle versus Warherd. That's what it was, all the Minotaurs. The Minotaurs killed... Oh, actually, I'm not going to spoil it for you. It was a good game, though. I'm not going to spoil it, but it was good, and the Blight Kings were phenomenal. So, seeing things on table, you know, you can talk about the Maggotkin book all day, but man, when you see it on the table, and you see the mortal wounds coming out, you see the damage they can cause, the speed they can achieve now, oh, it's nasty. It's a good kind of nasty. It's a Slaanesh good kind of nasty. Yeah, and so those are kind of my 3 topics. The stories we covered, what's going on with Slaanesh as far as, I think, being rewritten and kind of retuned for a new audience, and my thoughts on the Maggotkin of Nurgle. So, kind of in general closing here, I was able to finish putting all these guys on a base. It's a little hard to talk to the camera as well as put these dudes on, but they're all on, and so I just need them to dry, and I'll get hammering on the paint. If you want to leave a question, I'm going to offer it again in the show notes. There's going to be a link to a SurveyMonkey thing. You just optionally leave your name. If you don't, that's cool. I'll try to pronounce it the best I can. And then obviously your question, and I'll get to that next time I do this show. It'll help me kind of organize everything and be really, really quick and smooth. And also, in the link below that, actually, we're going to put it above that. I actually started the link to the giveaway. So I'm going to start pimping that on all the videos that I do now, where I had mentioned it in my last kind of channel update. When I hit 5,000, I'm going to give away $100 US to a Games Workshop store. Now, the information that's required on that survey is the same information that's required by Games Workshop to send a voucher, I think they call it, like a gift voucher. So I'm not going to use your email for anything. It's literally requires an email to send that to you. So look out for that. But basically, in that, I ask for your name because Games Workshop requires it. Your email, they require it, and then your YouTube username so that I can give you credit online without divulging personal information. So anyway, yeah, go ahead and click both of those things. Let's get involved. I want to get to 5,000. I'm really excited. And I just want to see that happen. I want to see it grow. Y'all have been incredibly encouraging when it comes to this video series, as well as the lore stuff. The Nurgle week was exhausting, but I got a lot of good feedback. I still want more. If you liked that and you want to see it for other Chaos Gods, just let me know in the show notes here. I'd really, really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you the next time that you have been struck down in battle and are reforging, which is the hokey way of saying thank you so much for watching, and happy wargaming.